Time acceleration is incredibly useful in all the mods 10, whether it's speeding up your bee production, machines, or even mobs. But usually this is reserved for late game after you've defeated the Ender Dragon, the Wither, and have a large supply of resources, with options such as Time in a Bottle, Just Dire Things Time Wand, or even the Industrial Foregoing Souls. But what if I told you you could get time acceleration within your first few hours of playing, and it all revolves around a mod that you've probably not used much? Today, I'm going to introduce you to the Crystal Staff from the Roots mod, and how you can use it to get a head start with time acceleration. So for me to explain all this, I'm going to have to give a mini overview on the Roots mod. The Roots mod is a nature-based magic mod, where you can craft magical items, blocks, and most importantly, spells. And the specific spell I'm going to be looking into today is Time Acceleration spell. And there's 3 different things I'm going to be covering in the Roots mod to show you how to make these spells. The first one is the actual spell component itself, which in this case is the acceleration spell. I'll then discuss all of the modifiers that you can add onto it, and then lastly, the staff that you're going to need. Now to craft this spell, you'll have a look and you'll see it requires an Oxeye Daisy, Endstone, Gold, and Sugar. And I know what you're saying. You're thinking, Endstone? You said this was early game. Well, I'm going to show you a way to get Endstone without going to the end really early game. But I know that someone is definitely going to also ask about the Oxeye Daisies. So if you're not familiar on how to get those in vanilla Minecraft, your best bet is to go and grab some bone meal and head to a plains biome. You'll probably find some Oxeye Daisies lying on the floor, but if you haven't, my recommendation is just bone meal the ground, and you will get various different items, and one of them is the Oxeye Daisy. Once you've got one Oxeye Daisy, you can just bone meal it and you will get multiple. So fantastic, that's the way that you get Oxeye Daisy. So you're probably asking, how do we get Endstone early game? There's a few methods, but my favourite method has to be to do with a mod called Occultism. Now if you're not familiar with this mod, I'm going to guide you through the early steps on how you can get the Endstone, without going all into the nitty gritty of it. The 2 things that you'll need is the Dictionary of Spirits and the Demon Dream Seed. And there's a chance to get these every time you break some short, medium, or whatever grass. You can grow this seed on just about any farmland that you want, and it can also be harvested from the Harvester Pylon from the Pylons mod, or even the Just Dire Things automatic crop stuff. And if you're not familiar with that, I would totally recommend you check out my last video on the ATM tips and tricks. I show off both of those farms in great detail. What you'll get from planting it is the Demon Dream Fruit, and then the Demon Dream Seeds. And the book is a really simple craft, it's just a book with the Demon Dream Seeds. And this will be your main guide for occultism. You can follow the steps through the mod, but I've just skipped ahead. But all the things I talk about here will be in the book, so if you do get stuck, please just take a look at this manual, it's super handy. But what you'll need is the Demon Dream Fruit we saw earlier, flint and steel, some andesite, and some saplings. You're going to be creating Spirit Fire, and the way you do that is by throwing a Demon Dream Fruit on the floor and then right-clicking with a flint and steel. And you'll see it's a purple flame, and this purple flame won't actually hurt you if you step in it, so feel free to. Not that I'd recommend it. From this, you can then throw all of your andesite in, and you will receive Other Stone. You can also throw in your saplings, and you will get in return some enchanted oak saplings? I wonder what these could be. If you go to plant these saplings and then grow them, either manually or just wait for them to grow naturally, you'll see they look pretty normal. That is until you start eating the Demon Dream Fruit. Once you've eaten it, the tree looks very different. You'll need to harvest this tree whilst you're under the effects of the Demon Dream Fruit, and it might take a couple for it to kick in, but as you can see, it does there. Once you've then harvested it, you will get the Otherworld Logs. And even when you lose the effect, you'll still keep the Otherworld Logs. Using the other stone that we created, you're going to need 4 regular sacrificial bowls and a golden sacrificial bowl. This is made by just surrounding a sacrificial bowl with 8 golden ingots. You'll also need 2 types of chalk, the impure white chalk and the impure yellow chalk. The impure white chalk is crafted with burnt otherstone and otherworld ashes. You get burnt otherstone by just putting otherstone in a furnace, and you get the otherworld ashes by throwing the otherworld logs into the spirit fire, just like so. To get the impure yellow chalk, you're going to need glowstone and then some gold dust, and you can get the gold dust from using an ore hammer like I showed in the tips and tricks video I referenced earlier. Once you've got both of those, take them and then throw them into the spirit fire, and that will purify your chalk so that you can use it. You're also going to need 4 candles. And there's 2 types of candles. You've got the vanilla candles, which just require beeswax and honeycomb, but the way that I'd recommend is by using the occultism ones, and you can get this by using string, any type of string, and tallow. The way you get tallow is by crafting a butcher's knife, which is a simple recipe, requires 3 sticks and 2 iron, and if you kill either a pig, sheep, or cow with this, you will get some tallow. As you can see, we now got some tallow, and you're going to need 4, which is ironic because that just dropped 4. Once you've got all that sorted, you're going to go into the Dictionary of Spirits and go down to the Possession Rituals, and we'll be going for the first one here, the Possessed Endermite. It will always drop Endstone and a 25% chance to drop an eye. There's actually some more stuff it drops here as well, such as spider eyes and fermented spider eyes, so this is quite an interesting mob. And for this, we're required to make a ritual called Hedrin's Law. The ritual is quite small, so it won't take up too much of a footprint, but if you use the show multi-block preview over here, you'll be able to place this on the ground wherever you want. You need to right-click it to anchor it in place, and once you've done that, it will now show all of the items you need. You now need to place every single one of these items in the multi-block. You've got chalk over here, and you just need to place it like that. It doesn't matter about the pattern of the chalk, just place it down and it's fine. You'll then place down the yellow chalk and the candles that we put down earlier. It's a little bit glitched at the moment, but you can see there's a bar in the top, and that will increase every time you've placed a correct block. To complete the ritual, we now place the golden sacrificial bowl in the middle, and then we can surround this bowl with 4 of our sacrificial bowls that we made earlier, like that. Now, to actually summon this possessed endermite, you're going to need 2 dirt blocks and 2 stone blocks. It's going to cycle through all of these. All you need to know is that it's 2 dirt, 2 stone. You'll see it also says the item to use is an egg, so we'll need one of those. And then lastly, we'll need this foliate book here. All you need is a book, a feather, and black dye. You can get the black dye from the ink sacks. And what you need to do is grab one of each of them, throw them into the spirit fire, and you'll see it will create the awakened, the taboo, and the purified ink. All of these different items. If you put them all together, you can then get the Book of Binding empty. Now, to get the foliate book, you just need to surround it with 4 blue dye. It's really simple, and now you've got the Book of Binding for foliate. It also says that it hasn't been bound to a foliate yet, and the simple way you do that is by putting it back in the crafting table with your Dictionary of Spirits. You can pull that out, and now you've got the bound version. So now once we've collected all of our items, we then put the 2 dirt down, 2 stone down, we put the Book of Binding in the middle, and it should tell you that it's working. There we go. So now it says to use the item egg, and you can just use it wherever. And these purple particles are what you're looking for. So it will now suck up each one of those items and spawn in this possessed endermite. Now, do note this does take a little bit of time. Brilliant. So now we've spawned in the possessed endermite, and you can do 2 things with this. You can either kill it and just get the end stone, or you can bottle it into a Drigme farm, which I showed in the tips and tricks video. But in this case, I'm just going to kill it. Simple as. We got the end stone and the spider eye that it said in the book. So we have now obtained end stone super early game without actually having to go to the end. So now we've got all of our items for the spell we need. We now need to think about modifiers. Similar to potions in regular vanilla Minecraft, you can add glowstone or redstone to one of the spells, and that will either increase its potency or its duration. And depending on the item you use here, depends on how many modifiers you can use. And I'll show you how to get all of these in a second. But depending on which one you end up using depends on how many modifiers you can add. So for example, the first iteration, you can't add any modifiers, but the second, third, and fourth, you can then add these types of modifiers. The way you get the old root is just simply by breaking some of the short grass and the tall grass. I think it's a 1 in 40 to drop. The verdant sprigs you get from overworld crops. So in this case, I've got a wheat farm here, and if you just right click them, you will occasionally get a verdant sprig drop. If you put them in a harvester pylon, you will also get verdant sprig drops. They're not a particularly rare drop, but it's a 1 in 30 from harvesting fully grown crops. The next stage up is the infernal bulb, and you can get this from Netherwart. Now do note, I've got a harvester farm here using the harvester pylon I mentioned earlier, and I've not had a single drop right now. However, the Just Ire Thing soil has given me lots of them. According to the book, it's a 1 in 20 chance from a fully grown Netherwart crop, and if you're looking to get these in a pinch, I've got a sort of mini tip for you. You can craft soul snad, which is just 2 soul sand together in a crafting bench, and you get soul snad. Putting a clock in the middle, surrounding this with soul snad, and then adding your Netherwart will cause these crops to grow really quickly. And what you can do is just right click them, like this. Within less than a minute we've already got 2, and yeah, we only need a couple anyway. The last one is the Dragon's Iron. You can get this from Chorus Fruit. Now I've checked pretty far and I don't think you can get Chorus Fruit without going to the end, so I'm going to kind of ignore it for this one, but if you happen to have gone to the end, I would definitely recommend this one. But from now on, I'm going to use the Infernal Bulb because, like I said, we're focusing on the early game. You probably haven't got to this stage yet. But if you have got to that stage, you can add a 3rd modifier. The Infernal Bulb only allows 2. So once you've decided which modifier you're going to use, I'm going to use the Infernal Bulb, like I said, and I'm going to then use 2 of the glowstone dust. Now, you don't have to remember that you need 2 glowstone dust, it will only allow you to put 2 in. And to actually craft the spell, you're going to need a mortar and a pestle. Mortar can be crafted with any single stone variant, whether that's andesite, regular stone, diorite, etc. But the pestle has to require you to use diorite. And so what you need to do is you place all of your items for the spell component into the mortar. You then place your modifier, so in this case, Infernal Bulb, and then any of the previous modifiers that I talked about. So in this case, I'm going to use glowstone, but you could easily use redstone. Now in this case, I'm only allowed to add 2, but if I keep right clicking, it will not let me add any more. You can then right click with a pestle and you will get the spell powder. You can see here that it says spell powder with +2 potency. So now we move on to how you can actually get this spell powder onto a wand and start using it. There are 2 ways of doing this, both with different cost requirements. First way is just using a stick, but you will only get 15 uses. You can add more by using redstone instead of glowstone. The recommended way of doing this is by crafting the crystal staff, which I will show in just a moment. The recipe is very expensive. It is, however, required for the pulsating black hole, which is required for the all the mod star. So if you're going for this, you're going to craft this anyway, but it is 100% worth it and it's reusable and you don't need to craft this ever again. But in case you're not doing that method, all you need is to get an imbuer. Very simple recipe here. You place your spell powder in and you place a stick. This will then give you the staff, and like I said, it's only got 15 uses. If you use redstone, I think you get up to 45, so here I used 2 redstone, I got 45 uses out of it. And if you wait to the end of the video, I'll show you how to use the staff and what you can use it on. But the main thing that you'll be crafting is this crystal staff. And the way that you're going to craft it is by creating a ritual. I'm going to put on the screen all the base materials that are required. It's not particularly cheap, but if you happen to have got all of those materials, this is what you're going to be crafting. 8 mundane stones, 4 attuned standing stones, 4 incense braziers, and a casting altar. The way you want to build this altar is by placing it in the middle. From 2 out of the block, you then need to place your mundane stones, like so. You also then need to place the cornerstones in. So for example, in line with these 2 here, you place the same mundane stone. After that, you now need to place your attuned standing stones, and they only need to be 1 block away. So these are 2, this is only 1 block away. And once you've placed all of those in, you now have a full ritual. However, you will need to place the incense braziers. And in the case of the crystal staff, you need 4 of them to be placed. You can place them anywhere within side. I place them usually just next to the altar like this. It makes the most sense. Now for the crystal staff recipe, you're going to need the diamond block, stick, blaze powder, coal block, the verdant sprig, which I showed you how to get earlier from the farm, and then you also need the bark of acacia and bark of birch. The way that you get that is really simple. You just need to use a bark knife on either the logs here. The bark knife is crafted, and just ignore this recipe, it's a bit confusing, but just saplings and then wood in the middle and a stick there. It just happens to go through every single variant of this recipe, so it looks a lot more confusing than it actually is. And once you've got that, you just need to place your log, right click, and you will receive some bark. It will then break at some random point and turn it into stripped, but as you can see, we've got 2 of our birch barks. You'll also need to do this for acacia, and now we've got 2 of each of the barks, but you'll only need 1 of each for the recipe. Again, because it's early game, you might be struggling to find acacia or birch. I recommend 2 different ways of finding it. One is with the Nature's Compass. It's quite a simple recipe, just requiring a compass, 4 logs and 4 saplings. And then you can search for the biome. So in this case, I want to search for savanna. And on the left-hand side of the screen, it shows me the direction and where it's pointing to. So I can go and get some acacia from there. Alternatively, you can use the market from Farming for Blockheads, which uses planks, logs, and red wool, which will spawn in your villager from the sky. There he is. And you can get your saplings this way. You can look for acacia here. It costs 1 emerald for both of these saplings, so you can get your sapling there. Or if I type in birch, you can also get it from there. The way you craft this is by putting your block of diamond, blaze powder, and stick all in the middle here. And you'll see in the recipe, you've got this fire icon next to these 4. That means you're going to have to put them in the incense burners. So all you've got to do is just place them in each of the incense burners. It doesn't matter what order you place them in, as long as they're in. You also then have to light the incense burners. So get a flint and steel and just right click all of your braziers. Once that's done, you just shift right click the altar and it will now craft. There's a cool little particle animation and then eventually your crystal staff will pop out. There we go. Right, we got our crystal staff. Fantastic. Now the way that you apply a spell to the crystal staff is by making your spell powder as you did before. You can see we got our +2 potency one that we had earlier. You then get yourself a verdant sprig. And the way that you do this is by shift right clicking all of your burners to turn them back off because they will be burning from last time. And then you place your spell powder in here. You place your crystal staff and a verdant sprig in the center. Light your incense brazier on fire and do the shift right click thing that I said before. It will then do the ritual and apply the spell to the staff. Perfect. So now we have this purple orb, which basically means that we've now got a spell. Now, if you do get into the Roots mod, you can add multiple spells to your crystal staff. I think you can add up to 4, and you can just shift right click and that will swap every single one of the spells. So you want the one that's active right now, which is the purple one, and you can just swap them with shift right click. You can tell which one you're currently on because it will say type acceleration, just the same as this regular staff. So now the important part, how do you actually use this spell? All you need to do is go up to one of your machines or whatever you're using that you want to accelerate. What you're going to need to do is hold right click and then release it on the item that you want. Now, the main reason you have to kind of avoid looking at it is because if I just right click here, I'll open the inventory. So what I want to do is look below or look around it and then release it on the actual thing. You'll see just above my hunger bar, there is also these leafy green particles, your mana, and it will regenerate over time anyway. This will then provide your speed bonuses, and so I'm going to now put in items, and you'll see this furnace is going super quick. Check that out. Really, really quick. You can add multiple of these buffs as well, so you can just keep adding, and it will speed up very, very quickly. There we go. Check that out. It's even quicker. Now, by default, with a 0 potency acceleration, it will do 3 times speed. Every level of glowstone added will add 1 more to that. So, for example, now you've got 4 times, 5 times, and 6 times speed with those accordingly. You can also increase this by another potency level by using a full set of Sylvan armor. You'll see here it says it has a set effect where if the full set's equipped, you get +1 potency. This is a bit of an expensive recipe. It's still early game, but it is a bit more expensive, which is why I'm not really covering this. But again, it's the same thing that I showed you before with this ritual. And you can still use the crystal staff on all of your previous things that I've shown off. So here I've got some simulation chambers and loot fabricators, the enriching chamber or any of your mechanism machines, and I've also got the bees over here. Now, to get your full use out of this, my recommendation is by using a simulator upgrade. You can increase the hive and anything that's inside the hive will then speed up, but obviously if you've got bees popping out, they lose that speed bonus. But by using the simulator upgrade, which is really expensive, I will kind of warn you about that, check that out, it's not a particularly easy recipe, but by using the simulator upgrade, they stay in the hive, meaning that you can keep accelerating it and they will just stay there. The cool thing about the roots acceleration is you can also use it on entities, which you're not really able to do with the time in a bottle or the Just Dire Things wand. If I open this up and I look at the chicken, you can see its next egg is going to be in 7 minutes and 32 seconds. If I then shift right click this chicken, you'll see that time is now sped up. Look at the time in the top. It's now going at its regular speed, and you can see this chicken is running around like crazy. Now be aware that if you're shift right clicking, you might accidentally change spell, but I'm just going to keep adding this, and you'll see we're going to end up with a super chicken absolutely pacing it. It's going to be producing eggs like crazy. This is especially useful if you've got something like a Drigmy farm, or if you've got mine colonies villagers, and you want to make them walk faster, or move faster, or build faster. It's really good for that. So yeah, that's early game time acceleration without having to craft anything like a time in a bottle, all from pretty easy resources you can get within the first few hours of your game. Let me know if this was helpful and if you want to see any more tips, and I'll see you in the next one.